Recently, a clip went viral from a 2000s reality contest called Butterface. In it, a woman has a bag on her head, it gets removed, and then everyone is disappointed that she has facial features, rather than whatever men want. A giant third boob. This has got people talking about how nasty the 2000s were. So I thought I'd give a British perspective, look at whether they were cruel, and if they were, answer why. Without relating it to 9/11, because every 2000s video essay relates it to 9/11, and I will be original. No, we're meant to never forget, but yeah, I think never remember. I think that'll annoy the terrorists more. In the 2000s, Britain had a culture of being edgy, and I'm sure some of you think being edgy in Britain is saying the word golly before dusk, but no. Perhaps unsurprisingly, a lot of this edginess manifested as sexism and misogyny. I think in Britain we often ignore women's achievements, and it's not until we get rid of that attitude that we'll see our first female Prime Minister. At the forefront of this misogyny were lads mags like Nuts and Zoo, and for the subtler perv, National Geographic. There was also something called Page 3, which was pictures of topless women on the third page of major newspapers. Call me old-fashioned, but I think Page 3 is a bit early to have actual pornography. I don't know much about rounding, but Page 3 is basically Page 1. Especially as if you're into Page 3, you're probably getting the pages stuck together a bit. And it gets worse. Until 2003, the topless models on Page 3 were allowed to be 16. How fucked up is that? This is a normal newspaper. This isn't Dark Web Weekly, Human Trafficking Matters, both great publications obviously, #ad. Essentially, if you've got an old copy of The Sun in your loft, you're on a list. Thankfully, the whole thing died in 2015. Not enough face boob, apparently. Not only was this kind of thing going on, but there weren't any of the safety nets for women that exist today. Me Too didn't exist. An intimacy coordinator was just the politically correct term for a pimp. Now, I'm aware that some of you will already be angry at this video because I've used the word misogyny without following it up with the phrase, is a cultural Marxist conspiracy, and then punching a photo of Hillary Clinton in the face. Yeah, I see you. Thanks for your view. You look like this, don't you?
Misogyny? No, it's not misogyny. Actually, women can be very rude. Right? My ex-wife told her therapist I was stalking her. I was like, guys, I'm right here!
This culture of hate extended beyond women and towards pretty much every minority, and I think there was no clearer demonstration of that than in comedy. The biggest comedy show in the UK in the early 2000s was called Little Britain, which mainly did jokes about disabled people and black people and Asian people. In a way, great minority representation. Forgotten woke classic. In reality, it feels like your nan who got into QAnon during COVID has put on a play at the local community theatre, and no one's had the heart to tell her it's shit and breaks multiple hate speech laws. Some of the sketches are just, this character's disabled. That's it, that's enough, isn't it? Should we get lunch? Thing is, everyone loved it. Couple of tuts, maybe. A few people wanted to say blimey, but, it was on before dusk, so what could you do?
Yeah, but it was good that they was mocking minorities. They deserve it. Like, black people are more likely than any other group to commit black-on-black violence. That is a fact.
So I think a good question is, why was the noughties like this? And I have a theory. I think by the 2000s, society had made a lot of progress on social issues. There was a sense that no one's bigoted anymore, so any bigotry must be ironic. Essentially, the noughties is the temporal equivalent of a white guy who thinks he can use the N-word because he's got a black friend. A blackface comedy sketch being acceptable relies on the assumption that there's not really any racism anymore. But I think now, in 2025, we have realised there is maybe a bit of racism still.
It's not racist, it's just that wokeism's gone too far. Right, I got fired from my last job for touching a black colleague's hair. I think that's ridiculous. But apparently it's their pubes, their choice.
I think we're at a point now where we're quite sensitive to certain things, but there's still this desire to be edgy, and we haven't quite worked out how to make the two compatible. A few years ago, I was on a show called Roast Battle, where you insult other comedians. But the format didn't quite work, because the producers didn't allow us to say anything really cruel or dark. There were certain things that were off limits.
Ken used to be a professional gambler for a living, essentially making him the only person from China who likes to bet.
So it ended up in this weird middle ground where it was pretending to be really brutal, but wasn't. It's kind of an absurd scenario. It's like if wrestling turned out to be fake. You ended up doing the level of bullying you do when you fancy someone. Essentially, the whole show reeked of inadvertent sexual tension. Watch it without context and you'd assume me and Ken Cheng are about to cop off.
Look, AJ and I are like chalk and cheese. White and yellow.
So there's still this desire to be edgy, but no willingness to actually go there. If Roast Battle had really wanted to be edgy, they could have done something like make one of the judges an actual sex offender. Oh no, fair enough. So I think at some point in the 2010s, there was this realisation that there was still bigotry in society. And for culture, that was a shock to the system. You know, it was a wake-up call. It was a sort of real, 9/11 moment. Fucked it.